interceptions are carried out by S-13, which is a highly trained unit of the Israeli occupation forces. These are the same group of soldiers that are believed to have participated in the Al-Shifa attack, when they went in dressed up as Palestinians and shot dead people in Gaza in their hospital beds. It's the same S-13 that conducted the 2010 operation, where they shot dead 10 people on the flotilla mission. The Ummah has so much money, it has so much capital, and yet we're on old recreational yachts that have been purchased or donated, old fishing trawlers that have got engine issues and are dysfunctional in so many ways. What a dysfunctional state we're in as an Ummah. My parents were naturally very worried about us going on the flotilla mission to Gaza, but my dad said the most beautiful thing. He said we all have to die sometime. He said we all have to die sometime, and at least you would have died doing the right thing.
If you want to invest your money but not sure what's halal and what's not, the Halal Money app makes it super easy. It's home to Australia's only Sharia-compliant ETFs, professionally managed, interest-free, and aligned with your values. Their Compass tool even helps you find the right investment path based on your goals. It's simple, smart, and halal investing, all from your phone. Download it now. Let's get back to the podcast. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. We bring to you today a very exclusive podcast on the Global Sumud Flotilla, which has currently entered high-risk territory on its way to Gaza to break the siege.
As we're currently talking, the time is 4:05 p.m. on the 1st of October, and we're joined with a very special guest, somebody who was actually on the flotilla itself. We're joined with Yusuf Omar, a war correspondent, award-winning journalist, and the CEO and co-founder of Scene TV, a next-gen media company. He's been someone that we've been watching since the flotilla launched. So Yusuf, welcome to the podcast. Alhamdulillah, it's a pleasure to have you. How are you?
Alhamdulillah, thank you so much. I'm a massive fan of everything that OnePath does, and I'm glad to be here.
Thank you very much. I think this is a very an exclusive podcast.
Yeah.
We don't generally do this kind of content, but given the nature of the situation, if you could give us an update, what is happening right now with the flotilla as it enters this high-risk territory?
This is the most dangerous part of the flotilla mission to Gaza. They are currently experiencing regular visits from the Israeli Navy, who have been surrounding their ships in dangerous maneuvers. There's been some drones that have been spotted throughout the week. It appears that the Israeli occupation forces are preparing to enact an interception. The flotilla mission is in the region of the Mediterranean Sea where previous interceptions have taken place. And it's a really, really high risk situation. As you know, we've seen in 2010, the flotilla mission was fatally attacked when 10 innocent aid workers were shot dead by the Israelis. So everyone's watching really carefully, and yeah, it's a highly tense time right now.
Yusuf, I have to ask you just on the back of that question, if we were to say, unfortunately, that the flotilla was intercepted again by the IDF, would you consider that a failed mission? Would you say that the efforts have gone to waste, that they went all that way for it to be intercepted yet again? What are your thoughts?
The Zios will call this flotilla mission a failure, but it was an enormous success because at a time when global governments failed to act amidst a genocide, where we witnessed for 2 years the live streaming of ethnic cleansing of Gaza, everyday people got up and did something. And that, for me, represents the idea that humanity is still alive. Could you imagine a world where we watch a genocide take place and people around the world say, well, that's not me, that's not my race, that's not my ethnicity, that's not my tribe, I'm not going to worry about it. The flotilla represents hope. It represents 44 country delegations coming together to do the right thing. The global attention that the Sumud Flotilla had on it, which then was redirected to the genocide in Gaza, was formidable. And it really paints Israel in such an awful light when they're stopping humanitarian workers, delivering food, medicine, baby formula. And I think a lot of people that got on the flotilla knew from the very get-go that the chances of them actually reaching Gaza were very small, were very slim. But does that mean it's a failed mission? No. It represents so much hope for the people of Gaza that the world haven't forgotten about them. The best thing about this flotilla mission is that on this mission, 26,000 people applied to be there. And only about 500 were able to.
26,000.
That's still a big number. 500 is a big number
people.
to be on the flotilla.
It's a huge number. But can you imagine how many people are ready to sign up for the next one? I'm sure the two of you are ready to sign up. If 26,000 people signed up for this one, expect 260,000 to sign up for the next one. Expect 2.6 million people to sign up for the one after this. This is an insurmountable threat to Israel's occupation and apartheid system. What do they do when they have continuous waves of flotillas arriving and arriving? It's a really big challenge for Israel right now, and it's a really big win for the flotilla.
And we're actually watching the live tracker right now on the Global Sumud Flotilla.
Play a screen for those at home as well.
Official website. So you can watch the live stream right now, tracking the flotilla. At any moment, it can be intercepted. The recent flotillas that were launched this year, the Madeline was intercepted at the same location where the Gaza Global Sumud Flotilla currently is right now.
And they're close.
And the Handala as well. So at any moment, they can be intercepted. If an interception were to take place in the next given moment, what could those on board expect?
So the interceptions are carried out generally by S-13, which is a highly trained unit of the Israeli occupation forces. You can think about them a little bit like the US Navy SEALs. These are the same group of soldiers that are believed to have participated in the Al-Shifa attack when they went in dressed up as Palestinians and shot dead people in Gaza in their hospital beds.
Just up as nurses, as doctors.
Exactly. Greta Thunberg, when I was with her, she described to me when this unit boarded the last flotilla that they were on, that they arrived and she said they looked like spiders the way that they crept onto the vessels. Where the ordinary Israeli might spend 2 years in military conscription or training, these guys spend several more years in training. Having said that, does that mean that they are safer? Does that mean that they are more ethical? Absolutely not. It's the same S-13 Israelis that conducted the 2010 operation where they shot dead 10 people on the flotilla mission, innocent aid workers. And that footage, which was smuggled out by a Brazilian documentary maker, reveals that it appears that they were shot sometimes in like assassination mode, point blank range.
So this cannot be understated that the lives of those on the flotilla are currently at risk. And this is why we're seeing a global push towards governments of the world to step up, to let the world know that they will not allow the Israeli occupation force to threaten the lives of these people. So I think it's very important for us to realize that their lives are in danger right now as we speak.
And if I could add to Kamal's, just on the back of that, Yusuf, what does it mean though that ordinary people like yourself are joining this mission? We're not really seeing too many government bodies come on board, or it's just normal everyday people. What does that signify? That just everyday people are saying, hey, what we've seen is we've just had enough. But what does that signify? Your everyday person joining this global movement to end the siege in Gaza.
The flotilla is insanity. It shouldn't exist. It is absolute madness that everyday civilians who have, for the most part, no training in making a 3,000 kilometer journey across the Mediterranean, in delivering aid, in coming across a superpower that are armed to the teeth. This is not the job of everyday people. This was the job of governments. This was the job of the United Nations. This was a last resort that everyday people had to step up and attempt to break a siege. This should have never happened. But to many people, they've spent the last 2 years or longer on their social media, making as much attention as they can to this genocide and the occupation. They've spent as much energy as they can on the streets, protesting. They've spent all of their money to avoid products so that they could boycott, divest. For many people, this was the natural next step. The flotilla was effectively the only form of like direct action where it's like, it's one thing to say, hey, my values are, I really care about Palestine. It's another thing to say, hey, I'm actually going to Gaza.
Yes.
And I think that like for many people, this was the last resort. They'd had enough and they felt hopeless and they felt helpless. And this represented hope.
Yeah, it definitely does speak volumes to see ordinary people having to try to break the siege on boats which are not really equipped for these missions. Many of the boats have actually failed. They weren't able to complete the mission.
Decommissioned.
So to see the young people and the old people and everyone on board these on this flotilla is very inspiring.
To your point about the boats failing, sorry to interrupt you. What a disgusting tragedy. The Ummah has so much money. It has so much capital. And yet we're on old recreational yachts that have been purchased or donated, old fishing trawlers that have got engine issues and are dysfunctional in so many ways. Do you know on the first night of the flotilla alone, 7 vessels either had to turn around, be rescued by the Coast Guard, or didn't even make it out of the port in the first place, simply because we hit a storm which any reasonable boat actually should have been able to weather. What a dysfunctional state we're in as an Ummah, that we don't even have the ability to direct capital to things that matter most, that this is being run by a series of volunteers that are unpaid. Like, obviously, there's going to be mistakes. Obviously, there's going to be failures. Obviously, there's going to be issues when you are so grassroots and you don't have the support of the global Ummah. If we can just direct our attention to the things that matter most, could you imagine? We wouldn't be 500 people. There would be 5,000. We wouldn't be 42 ships. We'd be 420 ships. That's possible. There's enough people that want to go. 26,000 people signed up. There's enough interest. So why can't we make that happen?
Yusuf, in terms of support, like you mentioned, we've also seen Navy ship escorts from Italy, Spain, and Turkey. How effective have these support boats been in the mission?
It feels like these navies that were providing support, Spain, Italy, Turkey, on paper sounded amazing. It sounded like a convoy, like an escort, like they were going to help this flotilla mission reach Gaza. But in reality, they're effectively acting as like an emergency boat. If anything happens, we'll be here to support you. Here's some water. Here's some food. These are navies that have the capability to effectively actually safeguard this mission. And yes, they stopped drone attacks over the last few days. Yes, there's been a de-escalation of those explosives that were being dropped onto the flotilla mission. But can they actually commit? Can any of these countries actually say, hey, we're going to surround the flotilla. We're going to safely allow you to pass and reach Gaza because what you're doing is legal under international law. And Israel's attempts to stop the flotilla is illegal. They're not willing to take that step. So that has me thinking, well, is this just PR for you? Is this just publicity? Are you using the flotilla as an excuse to show your country that you're doing the right thing, but you're not actually committed to this cause?
Now, we hope that the flotilla is successful, but given the interception does take place, what are some of the consequences that could face those on board the flotilla? We're talking about 500 people, everyday citizens on board this flotilla. What could be some of the consequences that face them?
Israeli ministers have been speaking about long-term detention in what they're calling terrorist prisons for some of the participants of the flotilla.
Volunteers.
And we can expect, especially for the leadership, Tiago, Yasmin, those individuals that are on the steering committee and have been on previous flotilla missions to Gaza and have previously been arrested and detained, we can expect that they're going to get a pretty rough time. We can expect that they're going to be held for a prolonged period. For the majority of the flotilla participants, I suspect that Israel are going to use this as a PR exercise. You'll remember last time when they detained Greta Thunberg and the rest of the delegation, they were filming them the entire time. The Israelis were filming them and they were waiting for any moment where they appeared to like just be showing a face that's not neutral. And they could say, hey, look, they smiled and we gave them sandwiches and water. And I think Israel are going to do the same thing now. This is a really good opportunity for them to try and repair their global reputation, which has been completely destroyed and tarnished. But at the same time, we are in completely unprecedented terrain. We're in waters that have never been sailed through before in terms of the pure volume of individuals that are going to have to be processed by the Israelis.
And 42 boats we're talking about.
42 boats,
all over
500 people from over 44 countries around the world. The Israelis are effectively going to try and get rid of these people as quickly as possible, to process them and deport them. Generally, in previous flotilla missions, the participants have been given paperwork.
Yeah.
And they're asked to sign a document that basically acknowledges that you wrongfully, illegally entered Israel.
Yes.
And if you acknowledge this, they release you quite expeditiously. Some people will sign that document and no judgment to them at all.
Yes.
There is a valuable role to play for many of the participants of the flotilla to get back home as quickly as possible so that they can get on the media, they can get on the podcast, they can make as much noise as possible.
Yes.
There will be other flotilla participants that will not sign that documentation, that will say, you kidnapped me and I don't regard the Israeli state as a legitimate state. I didn't enter your country wrongfully. I don't recognize. Yeah, you don't have jurisdiction here.
Yeah.
And those folks can expect to spend more time in Israeli detention.
So were you given training, formal training as to what to do in such situations? Were you to be intercepted? And if you're allowed to share this, do you mind sharing?
Not even being able to post on your phone. I mean, there's at times where you have to go dark. So what was that experience like?
The flotilla training was incredibly comprehensive. It was 3 days or more in Barcelona. And we were basically trained in nonviolence.
Okay.
The most important thing that the flotilla participants can do as they experience an interception from these vicious Israeli soldiers is to do nothing.
Yes.
And those flotilla participants have not only been trained in how to de-escalate conflict, how to de-escalate violence, how to not raise an eyebrow, don't say anything, don't do anything that's going to antagonize the Israelis, but they've also been vetted through that process. From the 26,000 people that applied, the 500 that are on the ships right now are truly the best of the best when it comes to their ability to contain their emotions, to be level-headed, because you only need one loose unit, one person to be a weak link, and it gives the Israelis an opportunity or an excuse to create incredible amounts of violence to kill people potentially.
As we saw in 2010, where they actually killed 9 people on board that flotilla.
And one died later.
They argued that there was resistance, there was a form of resistance. So to contain yourself in such situations, after seeing these people kill babies for the last 3 years, it's going to be incredibly, I guess, trying on the soul to just, look, I have to stay calm. I have to be patient. I can't show any hostility in their face. It will be very difficult.
100%. You are looking at soldiers that have been active participants in a genocide.
Yes.
And the flotilla delegates are being asked to say nothing, do nothing, remain calm. And I think that they are and will be entirely capable of that.
And you are live streaming it as well. And I know live streaming every moment right now. They have not gone off live stream for the past 24 hours to ensure that Israel cannot doctor a narrative or manipulate a narrative.
But going through that process, Yusuf, did you mentally prepare yourself? As we know that you're here with us now, but you were on the boat at one point. Did you mentally prepare yourself for a situation like that, where you would have these people come on board with force? Like, how did you prepare yourself for something like that mentally?
An interception is the scariest thing in the world.
Yeah.
You have highly armed, potentially drugged up soldiers that are boarding your vessel, and they're looking for an excuse to kill you. We were trained in these scenarios, and even role-playing it with pretend Israeli soldiers had me shivering, quivering, absolutely terrified, because you have no control over your life at that point. When you have people with guns that are effectively going to be forcing these participants' faces down on the deck of the ship, and you can't even see around you, you can't even see what's happening, you don't know what's going on, you lose some of your core senses, you lose your ability to see. And it's likely that the Israelis will have the participants put their hands behind their back, cross their legs. It's incredibly vulnerable a situation to be in.
Especially while knowing it's illegal for them to even try to arrest you on this mission, knowing that they're fully in the wrong, but you have to calm yourself and maintain yourself.
And I think the worst part is Israel have shown how little they care about their international reputation.
Yeah.
They've shown their ability to kill.
They've been boastful about it.
Yeah, not just internationals. Yeah. They've shown their ability to kill white people without remorse, right? They killed Rachel Corrie, an American citizen.
Ran her over with a bulldozer, Zomi Frankham
from Australia.
No consequences whatsoever. So I think it's naive to think, hey, Israel will be nice and peaceful because there are internationals on board. They've proven that they don't care about that.
Yusuf, you're actually someone who's not a stranger when it comes to this kind of violence. And we've been following your well-documented journey on the flotilla, but there was a point quite recently, might I add, where the boat that you were on, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the family boat, they were called the family boat, it was targeted with a drone and with a bomb. So we were watching videos of you reacting to your ship getting essentially bombed by the IDF.
Getting attacked by a drone was probably the worst night of my life.
Although they didn't claim to be, and they said they couldn't talk about it, and they wouldn't make any comments. We kind of know who did it. Tell us what was going through your mind when that was happening.
That was the scariest night of my life.
Yeah.
Our vessel was parked off the coast of Tunisia. Most of the people were on land getting supplies, repairing boats, and we got asked if there's anyone that could volunteer to do a night shift to watch the boat, because you're always afraid that Israel might sabotage the mission, right? They might board, they might mess with the engine. There's any number of things that they could and have done previously. So I volunteered to go out there. It's not a very fun job. Got a little dinghy out, went out like 9 p.m. at night. And my shift to do night watch was like 4:30 in the morning. So I went to bed on the top deck. At like 11 p.m., I just heard this like sound, this loud bang. I opened my eyes and a ball of flames was in my face. I could feel the heat against my eyebrows. I'd never been more afraid in my whole life. I knew exactly what had happened, that we'd been hit by a drone. But it's one of those things that you're trained for, but when it actually happens, your entire mind goes. You see a whole life flash before your eyes. I got up, I started screaming for help. As loud as I can. You know when you're screaming as loud as you can and you feel like nothing's coming out? That's how it felt. I was like, help, 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 calling to other boats, calling to the captain and crew to wake up because they were all below deck. I was the closest to the explosion. I was on the top of the deck. It was absolutely terrifying. And to your point, Israel have neither confirmed nor denied it was them. I mean, they were asked in a press conference this week whether they were responsible for the drone strikes on the flotilla. If they weren't, it'd be pretty easy to just say no. But they didn't. They just said, we're not going to discuss it.
Exactly.
At the end of the day, who would bomb a flotilla mission delivering aid to Gaza? Who has been bombing civilians for not just the last 2 years, but decades?
Sabotaging boats as well.
Yeah. And as we speak now, the live stream is getting cut out, so the transmission is being jammed. So we can anticipate that an interception will take place at any moment right now as we speak. On that point, do you feel as though your specific boat was targeted because you had some of the most prominent people of the flotilla on board, people like Greta?
I have no doubt that our vessel was targeted by the drone strike because it was the core leadership vessel that had Greta Thunberg, Tiago, a lot of the steering committee that run the flotilla. Israel have incredible intelligence. They have visibility on all those boats. I wouldn't be surprised if those boats were bugged and they weren't listening to the conversations, right? They're very, very capable of that. Having said that, it was very clear that they weren't trying to kill the participants on that strike. Israel can drop 2,000-pound bombs on residential towers in Gaza. They've proven their ability to turn you into vapor before you even make your last surah, right? They know exactly how to kill people if they want to. I think these were threats. I think these were scare tactics, and they weren't effective.
You're talking about, not only yourself, but the fear that you had for other. You're not talking about just yourself, but the fear that you had for the other people that were on the boat. Tell us, Yusuf, what was life like on the boat? I mean, now you're traveling with people who are essentially kind of like your family. So what was the relationship like between you and the other participants on the flotilla?
The flotilla was the hardest thing I have ever experienced. I've run like ultra marathons. I think I'm a pretty like tough guy when it comes to like difficult situations. This is a different level of
You are a war correspondent.
I've been a war correspondent. I've been in Syria and Congo and Sudan and all these different places. This is different. Like, you are dealing with so many variables. The sea is a variable. Massive storms that derail everything and set you off course, and everyone's vomiting, and your mattress is swaying from side to side at night, and people are trying to cook and the pans are falling off the stove. So like, there's the sea as its and the weather as its own thing. You're out in the sun for 16, 17 hours a day. There's also so much to do on a boat. You're constantly cleaning and fixing and mending. Like, you're just busy. There's just like tons of roles. And on top of that, these boats are packed. I was on a boat that was probably built for like 8 people, and there were like 20 people on board, right? And within a few days, the water desalination system had broken down. Again, they're old boats. Now you got 20 people and no running water, no taps. You never have showers, by the way. The only showers you have is if you get in the ocean. But imagine no taps. So now the whole hygiene of the boat goes down. The toilets, if you want to flush them, imagine that you got to go 3 stories down to get to the toilet, or 2 stories down to get to the toilet. You've got to come up. You've got to get a jug. You've got to fill that jug or bucket with salt water from the ocean with a rope. You've got to go back to the toilet. You've got to pour it down just to flush your toilet down. You've got that dynamic. And then, of course, the scariest bit of it is the threat of attack.
Yeah.
And you're trained to like spot drones and it's really hard to see what they are. And then once the drones actually started attacking the vessels, gosh, the entire, your mind starts playing games with you and you don't know when your last day is going to be. But none of the things that I described are anything in comparison to what the Palestinian people go through every single day, right? The bombs that are dropped on the flotilla are fireworks compared to what are dropped on the people of Gaza. The food and the siege that they're experiencing, the lack of access to water, all these contrived conditions that Israel have put the people of not just Gaza, but the West Bank too, under to make it so uninhabitable that they hope Palestinians choose to leave. It pales in comparison. So I think the flotilla experience is hard, but it's like, it kind of gave me a sense of like, wow, Palestinians are tough. Wow, they're tough. For 77 years, they've endured harder conditions than this and they haven't gone anywhere.
I guess it's called the Global Sumud Flotilla, named after the famous Sumud, the resilience of the Palestinian people, which has went across the world. It's a viral sense of resilience that has inspired the entire world. On that, you also experienced a sense of global solidarity from Barcelona to Tunisia. We saw the famous viral clip of Greta getting a frog hat stitched while in Tunisia. What was that global solidarity like, especially amongst those that were participating?
The flotilla gives the whole world hope that we can end this occupation and genocide once and for all. My parents are South African. They went through apartheid South Africa. In the late 80s and early 90s, they said to me that it was inconceivable that apartheid would end. The apartheid regime was so strong. The British and the Americans were also on the wrong side of history. But do you know what changed it? It was global solidarity. It was millions of people around the world that were screaming to free Mandela. It was millions of people that were questioning why the ANC were a terrorist organization, or at least that's what they were labeled at the time. And it was obviously an internal struggle, but it was also the external community that started boycotting South Africa, didn't allow them to participate in the Rugby World Cup, didn't allow them to participate in international events. And you know what? We're seeing that moment happen right now with Israel. We saw a massive event take place at Wembley Arena. Wembley Stadium was exactly where the Mandela tribute concert happened. We're seeing history repeat itself. So the Global Sumud Flotilla really encapsulates this idea of global solidarity. It really says, wow, people from Portugal and Brazil and all over the world are rocking up in Barcelona, joining this mission, putting their own lives on the line. And let me tell you something. The majority of people on the Global Sumud Flotilla that I met were not Arab. They were not Muslim. They have no skin in the game, so to speak. They're just conscious human beings. I fear if we ever lose global solidarity, we've lost humanity. If we ever lose the ability to care for one another, what do we have left? What point is there to live anymore? But for now, like the flotilla keeps hope alive. It keeps humanity alive. It keeps the idea that we still care for one another.
That sense of compassion, Yusuf, what did it mean? Because we saw, as you well documented, your family who came over to see you off in Barcelona. Tell us, what were some of the fears that your parents had for you to set out on this mission? I mean, we quite evidently saw how they played out, but initially, how were they feeling towards you saying, hey, I want to do something, I'm going on this boat?
You know, my parents were naturally very worried about us going on the flotilla mission to Gaza, but my dad said the most beautiful thing. He said, we all have to die sometime. He said, we all have to die sometime, and at least you would have died doing the right thing. And like, that really stuck with me. Like the acknowledgement that like, in our tradition, death is just a part of life. And my parents had the maturity and the passion that they were comfortable with that risk for a greater cause. That is not to say that they aspired for me to be a martyr, not at all. That is not to say that I had any aspirations to lose my life, not at all. But they believed that everyone has to die, and if this was how you were going to die, there's worse ways to go.
Allah accept. SubhanAllah. It reminds me of the famous quote of the Sahaba. It is but one death, so let it be in the path of Allah. SubhanAllah. It's crazy to think of that. Were there any like memorable moments of solidarity that will stick with you for the rest of your life, or at least change you for the rest of your life?
There's so many incredible stories from the Global Sumud Flotilla, but one that really sticks out to me, if you think about like Greta Thunberg's green hat is a really good indication for a positive world. And what I mean by that is during this journey on the flotilla, many things go overboard. I lost a battery pack. I saw a mattress get blown overboard on one of the other boats. And on one of the days, Greta Thunberg's green frog hat, which he's so iconic for, goes overboard. And I posted a video on my social media saying, hey, Greta's lost her hat. If anyone can get her a new one, amazing. And I really didn't think arriving in Tunis, anyone would be able to find a green frog hat. When we arrived, there were thousands of Tunisians with flares, making tons of noise. They're so passionate about Palestine. Yeah. And in that mix, tons of families came forward. They managed to weave their way through the crowd, and they gave to Greta green hat after green hat after green hat. Some of them were bought in stores. Some of them were hand woven. Wow. And that, for me, that idea that Greta had lost her green hat on the flotilla, and 24 hours later, dozens of Tunisian families had found a way to get her another green frog hat, that for me encapsulates global solidarity. Yeah. That is everyday people coming together to solve for a solution and help another person out. And if you extrapolate that idea out on a global scale, that's where we say, hey, we're going to boycott and divest because we support you. That's where we say, hey, we're going to protest and we're going to stop our country sending weapons to Israel. Yeah. That's global solidarity. It's such a beautiful idea. So I saw it play out with Greta's hat, but it has global ramifications too.
It speaks volumes because given that Greta's a non-Muslim caring about a Muslim cause, and of course there are non-Muslims, Christians in Palestine as well, but overwhelmingly it's a Muslim cause, and to see her go out of her way to support this cause, although she has no skin in the game, and then to see in a reciprocative manner the Muslims go out of their way to look after this sister. It's beautiful. It's very beautiful.
If I could ask you perhaps more personally, Yusuf, how did you, if I could say, wrestle with your faith going on this mission, going through all the highs and lows, both figuratively and literally? How did that impact you?
On a spiritual level?
Yeah. There's a saying that there are no atheists on a sinking ship, right? That when you're in a moment of crisis, you really decide what your faith is and what you believe in. When you cry for help, and in my case, I was on a boat that had just been hit by what is believed to be an Israeli drone strike, you cry to God and you say, yo, save me from this situation and I'll be the best Muslim ever. Like you make promises with yourself and with your creator. I think I definitely am on a constant journey with my faith. And I think during this mission, I was a lot more spiritual than I've probably been at any point in my life. And that's kind of sad because that speaks to the idea that like I call on Allah when I need something, right? When I need protection, when I need safety, when I need a safe passage. And you, at least myself, don't have that same level of passion or dedication when times are good, when times are cruisy.
All year round.
Yeah, exactly. Like, and that sounds like quite a transactional relationship to have with your creator or the religion. Like your friend would never tolerate that. No. Or you only hang out with them when you're having a time, and then when you're having a great time, you're like, I'll see you later. So I think that's a realization for me coming out of this, that I need to be consistent in my commitment to my faith and my spirituality and my religion, and not just lean in on Islam when times get rough.
Yusuf, we really thank you for your vulnerability and sharing that with us. I mean, you know, arguably done something that's quite impossible. Do you think that's impossible for people like myself, people who are just watching you on the screen? You know, we were really proud, especially myself, to see someone like yourself go on this journey, documenting it as well as you did. It was so consistent, and I still believe you're still posting content about your journey now today. So I really wanted to thank you for that and sharing that with us.
Allah reward you, brother.
And Allah
Yusuf.
reward you, Yusuf.
It's a big, we need to acknowledge the sacrifice someone like Yusuf has to make to come out of his way to like condemn the genocide. Many at a time while many people are silent, especially
Risking
those of authority,
life.
those in position.
Yeah.
So Jazakallah khairan.
Alhamdulillah, I appreciate it, but I don't feel that way. Like, I feel like God has given me everything. I've got the privilege of 3 fantastic international passports. I've got a family that have enough affluence that if my life went to like down the drain, I could move back in with my parents, right? They don't depend on me financially. I've been gifted with a media platform at Scene TV. We now have 8 million American subscribers on Snapchat and social media platforms. I've been gifted with an education and skills to tell my story. I know I'm a good storyteller. I know how to tell my story. And this is all a huge responsibility. You know, in our Islamic tradition, there's this idea that like wealth and privilege is a test. And I think I'll be asked, what did you do with it? What did you do with all that privilege? What did you do with that platform? What did you do with the microphone? Did you use it for self-gain? Did you use it to get famous and to get your way into nice hotels? And that's no way to live.
Yes.
So I don't think of it as being heroic. I don't think of it as being like a conscious decision. I think of it as being a responsibility. And I don't even think we're doing 1% as much as we should be doing for the cause and more broadly for the Ummah. And I think that's why over time you'll see Scene TV better align with serving the Ummah. And inshallah, I think that's an exciting journey that we want to go on.
Yusuf, like you said, you've been granted with an insurmountable amount of blessings in your life. And, you know, as a result of this trip, we can see that you've not wasted any of your talents, mashallah. I want to ask you one question on the flotilla before we wrap up, inshallah. If I were to say to you now, Yusuf, the flotilla was not successful in reaching Gaza and it's been intercepted. And my question to you would be, how do we keep that momentum going?
Right now, with right now, the biggest responsibility is for people that are off the vessel, not on. The people that are on the flotilla mission are going to be silenced. Their phones are going to be taken away. They will have no ability to tell their story. They will be tarnished by Israel as being Hamas, right? Israel have already come out and said, these guys are funded by Hamas. These guys are Hamas. None of it is true. It is the responsibility of people around the world to protest, to take to the streets, to email their governments, to get on the media, to make as much noise as possible to say, our citizens have been illegally kidnapped by a rogue state and we demand their release. And more broadly, we demand that our country ends their complicity with this genocide. That means in Australia, in the UK, in the US, the onus is now shifting. The people on the flotilla have done their part. They have served their role. They now need us who are off the boat, who have the opportunity to continue to make noise, to make as much noise as possible, to ensure their safe release. And more broadly, we redirect their attention to Gaza. People need to remember that the freedom of Palestine, like South Africa and so many other liberation struggles before, is not a sprint, it's a marathon.
Yes.
And we need to be able to continue to create energy. My biggest fear around this entire genocide, and I'm already seeing it happen right now, is that the West is starting to throw Benjamin Netanyahu under the bus, and maybe they will imprison him in Israel, maybe they'll hand him over to the ICJ, but they'll basically say, like, he's the fall guy. Oh man, that guy was really messed up, he did some bad stuff. And then they'll resume the status quo, the occupation and apartheid system. We see this with Trump's Gaza plan. Trump's Gaza plan is not a peace plan. You can, or maybe it is peace, but peace is not justice.
At what cost?
You can have peace in a prison, right? Where you can imprison people and it's a peaceful prison, but it's not justice. At the end of the day, we need to, absolutely accept nothing until Palestine is free. If this genocide is over, this fight is not over. And to be honest, people need to understand that we're winning. It might not feel that way when over 60,000 Palestinians have been killed. It might not feel that way when Palestinian children are in prison. But globally, we are in the majority. Even the US, if you look at the latest Pew studies and Gallup studies, young Americans are more pro-Palestine than ever before. We are winning. Netanyahu knows this. He is terrified. They've lost control of Hollywood. Hollywood are now starting to side with Palestine. They've lost control of social media. Hence, they're trying to buy TikTok to realign the algorithms. And to be honest, it's too late for them. It's too late. They're now desperately trying to get, I call them Zio Daily and these kinds of publishers to put out content that speaks about, hey, we can all coexist and be best friends while you maintain an apartheid system. They've lost the media narrative, and that's the beginning of the end for Israel. And it's going to get a lot uglier before it gets better, unfortunately. You tend to see when you know, a monster that is Israel is in a corner, they will just attack even more. But we are definitely seeing the inflection point. We're definitely seeing the light on the other side of the tunnel. So it's so important for us all to keep going.
Definitely.
Well, Yusuf, thank you for your words and thank you for your time. Thank you for joining us on the OnePath podcast. You know, we've been in contact for some time now, but it's an absolute honor to have you here and for sharing your story with us. And we pray that Allah blesses you for all your efforts. And we pray that this mission is successful in reaching Gaza, inshallah. And to the viewers at home, thank you for listening. And until the next episode, Assalamu alaikum.